Hi, here today with Mr. Paul Clavering, my good friend, long-term friend. He's the founder of Just Enough Change. Provides a people-centric, simplistic approach to change management, and also the creator of the Change Tracker, which systemizes change and helps businesses improve their internal change capability. It's a tool that I've watched grow from a seed into something that's quite impressive, and a brilliant tool for change management. Obviously, people watching this will know that we've done an awful lot together in the past, and I rate Paul as one of the best change professional evangelist in the Northwest. And it'd be just great to run through some questions of the chaotic year that we've been through, and understand sort of a little bit of the impacts on the change community, and how we've had to adopt and pivot and all those phrases that we've overused, I suppose, for a year. So thanks for your time, Paul.
Okay.
I'll start with a question. For me, I'm just interested to understand sort of what would the if we reverted back 12 months, and what was sort of the immediate impact on the change community due to sort of the initial COVID outbreak, and what did you, or what did we as a change community observe at that time?
Brilliant, thank you. Well, thanks for the introduction as well. So I've been called many things, but evangelist, I'll take that one.
That's it.
And I'm glad you didn't use the word old either, as in old friend. So, so what we've seen across the board really is a shift from companies moving away from focusing quite heavily on where they want to go, to really focusing on stabilizing and just keeping the lights on. And that's, from a change manager or project world, that's generally the first things that are, thought of as being sort of as excessive and maybe not needed. If an organization's thinking about, furloughing its staff, the last thing they're going to want to think about is spending, money on sort of thinking too far ahead. So we've definitely seen this shift, and hopefully it's a temporary shift. I believe it is, for more of a long-term plan to sort of, thinking about the next, weeks or months. And that's been a big change. And that's resulted, in real demographics. We've seen, the number of people that help organizations with change and projects, we've seen them become more available. This has coincided as well with, various other market trends like IR35's had an impact. But what we're seeing is this real short-term thinking from organizations, because actually there's no point thinking too long-term if you're not going to be here. And what's been really interesting with this is it's one that's actually gone across a multitude of industries as well. So this hasn't been specific to one, retail's obviously been impacted, but a lot of the organizations that we help are really sort of organizations that help other organizations. So they've been impacted, like service type industries. And it's been the brave ones that have really carried on and then thought about where they want to go. And they're the ones that may reap the rewards. But yeah, that's the big thing that we've seen.
From my perspective, businesses that where change is delivered, or there's transformational activity and then change at the end of that activity, you tend to be sort of, it would differ from industry to industry, and you'd obviously have high volumes of activity in financial services, and other industries would probably be, slower in the uptake of certain initiatives. But you're right, it's just been a constant carve through of the majority, probably outside of retail. So I suppose that's definitely something to focus on. I suppose off the back of that, there's this immediate change to the change community industry.
I think the honest answer to that is they still are. They're still trying to figure out sort of, how things are changing. we're not back to the pre-COVID days, and there's an argument that we ever will be. But for example, I always say that project management is all about getting, an organization, a solution ready for an organization. The change management is all about getting the organization ready for the solution. And to be able to do that, you need to be able to get into an organization, you need to be able to understand the culture, is it sort of more dictatorial change or collaborative? And until we're actually allowed back into organizations like the rest of the world, we have to work remotely. And that's a challenge for us. That's a real challenge because, understanding whether people are for change or against change, whilst doing that on a Zoom call, while somebody's probably making a cup of coffee and there's kittens running around and I've just shooed my kittens out of the way. It's really difficult to sort of get whether people are on board or not. So when we start to understand behavioral changes coupled with cultural changes, it can be a bit of a challenge. So what we've done personally is we had a real watershed moment. All of our clients were on site, we're developing things with them, and overnight that stopped. Never seen anything like it. And actually a good change manager will prepare for the unexpected. No one expected what we had. Yeah. So no one had this in their risks, I promise you. So what we had to do is we had to sort of look at how are we delivering a service. And we've had this idea for some time, and it's called, you referenced it earlier on, it's called the Change Tracker. And I've got a technical background, and I've always been in this camp where I think change, which is all about the people side of things, can be fused with technology. And I use that word quite carefully because I think you can't get technology to do change, but you can use technology to help drive change and to lead change. So what we developed is this tool called the Change Tracker. And the Change Tracker is a really novel, different approach. Don't think there's anything else like it on the market that starts to understand, how you're driving your change. Where are you on that journey? For example, how are you going to get people back into the office? What things do you have to do? And normally people will just have a big, long Excel document, type all the details in. The Change Tracker starts to look at things like, stakeholder engagement, apathy in the organization, starts to think about, is there any learning or education? And it pulls all the elements of change under a single umbrella. And that's been a company direction that I just didn't think of. Yeah. And what we did is we've launched this, like you said, and it's grown. And it's been really exciting that people have said, well, actually, we've needed help to mature our own internal change capabilities, but we don't want to do it over, 2 years. We've got 2 weeks. Yeah, because everything's changed. So having the tool, having us to be able to support them has actually helped us sort of just get people to think about change differently.
I think one thing that we've discussed on many occasions is that the measurement of change as well. And I think knowing the product and being guided through it by yourself, there's some interesting ways, and it gives you the ability as a business to almost have a measuring stick for the adoption of change or where you are in a change journey, which I think is amazing as well, from my perspective.
And I think you're absolutely right. I think there's 3 utopia change things. One is being able to measure change. Another one is trying to embed this new thought around agile change. So, gone are the days where we're going to plan a change and we're not going to, vary from that change. We have to build in this agile approach. And then the other piece is really sort of, as well as sort of the metrics of this, is actually data in general. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's the data telling us? How can we sort of understand the size of what we're trying to do? So that's what we've tried to do with the solution.
My question was going to be what tools became essential. I think we sort of covered that, and a big believer. I think the promotion of this tool and the adoption of this tool will rocket in a newer world where change probably will. It's always under scrutiny, don't get me wrong, but I think especially over the next 12 and 18 months, where every penny is scrutinized, and it's going to give some businesses real capability upwards to the execs to take them on the journey as well and quantify what success looks like, I suppose, which is great.
And yeah, we're absolutely seeing that, Al. We're seeing, traditionally when I go into an organization that's got one or multiple change managers, they've probably got multiple Excel documents. No one understands where things are. Everyone's got a different approach and a style, and being able to roll that up is a challenge. And I just think that, as I said, we didn't even think about this beforehand, but the fact that we've got to do this, and the new world is having this more balanced approach about having more immediate change as well as the longer term planning, it's just changing the way people want to sort of, manage the change. We came up with a strapline during our time, which is change is hard enough, managing it shouldn't be. So that explains why, we went down this route.
No, it makes perfect sense. Just really interesting if you were to sort of summarize what's the biggest lesson learned over the last 12 months for the change community?
I think it's this balanced view. So it's about getting deliverables. If you look at Kotter's model, for example, it talks about bringing in, and you know how much I love models. It talks about bringing in, some of those low-hanging fruits. I think that's ramped up. People are starting to want to see more immediate benefits, because the world demands it. We're in this situation where we're not allowed to leave our homes. So we have this challenge where we need to sort of start to prove our worth more. No longer are you going to have a 12-month engagement, and have something delivered at the end of it, or in more rare cases, that's going to be the case.
Fast forward 12 months from now, we spoke retrospectively quite a lot. What or how will the change community continue to evolve through the next 12 months and the rest of 2021?
I think what we've seen is, I think there's three things. I think even though people will be allowed to go back, obviously people are going to not be that comfortable always going back. So there's an ability to, for a change manager to still be able to deliver their things remotely. That's one. And again, previously, that's something we never thought of, not in our organization. We wanted to be on site. The second one is really, we're seeing this big trend in change management around agile. And again, overnight, the world changed, not the company, not an industry, not a country, the world changed overnight. So basically having an agile way of thinking was really important. And then the third one is really, this has been bubbling away and I'm starting to see this, but it's tied into the value of data management and to change management, and that's the data. So basically, how can you report your data up? How can you show me across the portfolio how we're doing? So project managers have a Gantt chart and they'll have percentages complete.
Yeah.
But when we say, well, how are we, how far are we on our journey for convincing those really senior executives, to change their behaviors? Yeah, all of a sudden that's starting to become more and more important. And that's what we try to do. Perfect.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your time as always, Paul.
No problems. Look forward to meeting you in real life again soon.
Can't wait.